Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher, joined by Dick Briggs, as always, ready to break down some college and high school wrestling action this afternoon. And, of course, we'll start with college wrestling. A big weekend for Iowa State, UNI last weekend. Iowa had senior day versus Wisconsin at Carver Hawkeye Arena. The Hawkeyes come away with a win to send out a pretty special senior class in style. They won 8 weights and came away with a 29-6 victory over the number 9 Badgers. Coach, a pretty fitting way to send out a pretty special group of seniors.
Man, and that's for sure. I don't know how many total seniors there were, but just the seniors that were on the varsity that night, 6, I believe, wasn't it? And I mean, that's pretty special. And it's not, you've got one that came from the year before that kind of started it. And then you got one that's probably going to be here next year in Spencer Lee. And hopefully anyway, right? And so, what a group that was. It is, so they've really, I think, stepped up Iowa wrestling and not that it was ever anywhere, but it's, brought it back to the top, this group. So really special for sure.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the seniors that they honored afterwards, Aaron Costello, Austin DeSanto, Jaden Ironman, Michael Kemmer, Alex Marinelli, Vince Turk, Miles Wilson, Caleb Young as far as the wrestlers, and then I believe Jenna Novak, one of the senior managers. So they were all recognized. And, a couple of them, Vince Turk had, hasn't really been in the lineup this year. Wrestled Austin Gomez, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. He wrestled him pretty tough, but Alex Marinelli, his win over Dean Hamady, he was ranked number 6, unbeaten coming in. And Marinelli came away with like the 8-5 victory, 8-6 victory. I think it was 8-5. And he ended up earning Big Ten Wrestler of the Week co-Wrestler of the Week honors, sharing it with Nick Lee at Penn State. Right,
didn't it? Another Marinelli type match. Just came at him. Third period, scored big points, and walked away with an impressive win over tough wrestler.
And of course, Scott Unash said this to me on the gym class radio show here in Cedar Rapids on Monday. You think Iowa should just retire Who Let the Dogs Out now that Michael Kemmer is done competing at Carver Hawkeye Arena?
Probably, because, when you hear that, who's going to run out? It's going to be the Chem Dog, right? And
right.
And what a great guy he just seems to be. And that whole group has just been really classy. It's been fun to watch all of these guys and listen to them. And the spotlight's been on Spencer Lee, and rightly so. And Chem Dog has been there all along, and plugging and doing his thing, and Marinelli and the rest of the group. But he just seems to be a classy guy. So yeah, I think that we should retire it.
Yeah. Interestingly, he finished 26-2 all time at Carver Hawkeye Arena. His only 2 losses, I believe, obviously here recently to Carter Sorochi of Penn State. You know who the other one is?
Oh boy, I don't know.
Jason Nolf of Penn State.
Okay.
Back when Kemmer was a 57-pounder,
wow.
That's the only other one to beat him in a duel. So quite a few moons ago. Austin DeSanto, he had a big win, another technical fall, kind of fitting for him to close his Hawkeye career out at Carver with a tech fall. He had 13 takedowns. It actually was the 27th career match he scored more than 20 points. So that was pretty impressive.
But I'm not surprised with his pace. He just goes and goes and goes. He's fun to watch. He's there's never a moment when you're waiting for something to happen in his matches, it seems like.
Yep. And another one that's been on the tear, not a senior, but Tony Cassiope, major decision, Trent Hilger, 9-0. Hilger, very strong heavyweight for Wisconsin, but Cassiope with wins over Hilger, Kirk Villette, he is really kind of stepping up his game here.
Right, and I think a lot of Hilger. He's a tough wrestler, and to win 9-0, that's impressive right there. That's, I mean, he didn't let him score. That's crazy. So yeah, big win. That was the most impressive, other than the Marinelli win, to me. I mean, that was cool. And you're right. He's rolling right now.
And of course, the one thing that needs to be mentioned, something that happened on the uglier side of things. Austin Gomez sent out a statement, I believe Monday, saying that he was subject to racial slur from Hawkeye fans as he was walking to the tunnel after his match. Apparently his family, received, how would you say, taunting, and people were swearing and cussing at. I believe cussing at him was one of the ways that Gomez described it, including his 16-year-old sister. Now I think we both can agree. Many Iowa fans are good. They're intense, but they don't. They're not made up of this kind of fabric. However, you can't ignore something like this when it happens, and it needs to be addressed. And Wisconsin sent out a statement discussing it, wanting a safe environment for all their athletes in any sport, home and away. Iowa talked about that they don't condone this, and this is something that they're looking into right now. When they find out who it was, there'll be punishments, but just kind of a ugly and unfortunate situation that occurred with Austin Gomez, and something he said also occurred when he was there as a Cyclone wrestler.
I just have one thing to the people that would do that. Just grow up, would you? Come on, get along. This is stupid. He said, I mean, it's just frustrating. It's wrong. I know it probably happens in every venue, every stadium, sadly, because of society, and now it's gonna be even more exposed, and that's a good thing, and a bad thing, but it's a good thing. So now maybe people will figure it out and get along. I mean, seriously, is that what you're wanting to yell? I'm so saddened by it, and it makes the Iowa fans look bad. It makes and the rest of the country, they don't really need that, because when you're in Iowa and you're winning all the time, people want to hate you anyway. And Iowa embraces that role, but not for this. It's for tough wrestling and for women. Okay, that's good. That they're hating you, right? But and I was a coach. If people love my team, it's because we sucked most of the time. So we were good, they didn't like us so much. So, but my point is that get along, man. It makes the state of Iowa look bad, and with the social media and the readiness and at the fingertip, it's going to be all over the place. So grow up.
There's a lot of thoughts that really come through my mind, and one, when it comes to wrestling, I guess one of the things that I've always loved about wrestling is it didn't matter what your makeup was, it didn't matter what your creed was, it didn't matter what your religion was or anything. You seem to have this mutual respect with each other, because everybody was putting in the same hard work. It was mano a mano. That was one thing about wrestle-offs that seemed more fair than anything else, that, hey, you go head to head, whoever wins is the guy. Same thing. It didn't matter, And I was lucky at Wash. We had a very diverse team. You know, at Buena Vista, it wasn't so much, but, you know, still, it was the same tenets. You come in, you do the work, you pull for each other, you know, you set all that other stuff aside, your teammates and your wrestlers, and, you know, you at least had this mutual respect regardless, you know. And that's what I think is special. I don't understand why this would creep in with fans. You think they would have enough, one, respect and human decency to begin with, but second, for the respect for whoever's taking them at, knowing that they're doing something 99% of the population couldn't stand to do. They couldn't put in the work just to get out there in the first place, nevertheless perform in front of them. You know, and it just comes down to human decency. Whoever said it, you're not freaking tough. You're not cool. All you are is disgusting, is what you are. And I hope you're watching this. And I don't care. Come up and see me sometime, and, you know, you can tell me I'm fat, stupid, and whatever. But you're not cool. You're not tough. You're not a good person for what you said at that moment. Now, maybe you learn your ways, or that was just one blip on the radar for you. But at that moment, you were not a good person, and I think you forfeit any rights to be able to sit in a seat at Carver Hawkeye Arena or any college event from here on out.
Yeah, and I'll go one step further. Not just the people that were yelling it or person or whatever, but the people around that are hearing it. They need to step up. You know, they need to step up and say, hey, knock it off. And, you know, don't be part of the problem by being silent. Like, you know, something was being said at the Wartburg-Augsburg meet a couple of weeks ago from the Wartburg side to the Augsburg side. And I said, hey, keep it classy, man. And, you know, and so I stepped up, and, you know, and that person did, you know, but, you know, so don't just sit there and listen to that. If it's offensive to you, and I know that there's a bit of risk doing that because some people can get, you know, argumentative and such, but step up and say, you know, hey, come on, keep it classy.
Yeah, and you gotta stand up for what's right. And like you said, you know, you gotta self-police things, especially, you know, Iowa fans. You don't want to be painted with the same wide brush as this person, as you're going to be now. Then you need to step up and say something and put a stop to it. That's what's right.
But you know, it's kind of put a damper on a darn good meet, isn't
it? Yeah, you know, it's weird, especially we just got done talking about the seniors and how they kind of went out in style, and you know, unfortunately, that situation. Well, the biggest unfortunate thing is what the Gomez family had to go through, right? That's the biggest unfortunate part of this whole thing, that they're subject to this whole thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, whether they're college kids or whether they're grown, full adults, and you have a 16-year-old girl sitting right there, and of course we have daughters. You know, I tell you what, how the Gomez's kind of held their wits about them. I mean, I don't know if I could have been that calm and collected, but yeah, it's just unfortunate. Like you said, you know, we're talking about that right now when it should have been fully on that senior class and what they accomplished. And the thing I'm trying to find here really quick were the quotes that from the press conference yesterday. And I thought Tom Brands had some really, really good things to say. And I tell you what, he addressed it right out of the gate. It was something that he wanted to kind of get to and deal with, and let people know that, hey, this is
yeah, and not to undermine this issue, but there's in a broad view of this. There's people out there that want to bring Iowa down. And, this is definitely bringing Iowa down. That was wrong. We've already addressed that. But, this aside, now other issues, they're going to try and find issues to bring Iowa down because that's their way of lifting their program or whatever. So, be on your best behavior, man.
That's right. That's right. And not to mention, just enjoy the stuff. I mean, I don't know how you can enjoy it when you get that ramped up. Now, I say that and I'm being hypocritical because, there is a time in my life where I'd see red when a team would lose, or I'll admit I've broken a couple remotes when I used to get all hell bent when I had when the Yankees lost or Washington's football team lost or whatever. It took me a long time to grow up and, just start enjoying things. And of course, it's taken me so long to find these quotes from Coach Brands yesterday. And I apologize for that. But I really do want
to. As you're looking for those, maybe we can forward a little bit to the battle on the Bout. Was it Bout on the Ballpark or?
Yes, Iowa, Okie State wrestling. They're going to have some men's freestyle going on, and Mongolia just has recently pulled out, but I think they're looking to kind of get some women's
matches
scheduled to replace that.
I think from what I've heard, they're trying to get, obviously the Iranians pulled out, but there's some people that are some foreign wrestlers that are training inside the United States that might be available and be able to come and compete as well. So hopefully they get some matches put together.
So here is Tom Brands' opening statement. I want to extend an apology to him and his family. No athlete, no parent, no opposing fan should have to go through what he went through ever, anywhere. The world has a lot of work to do with social injustice issues. The work is important to our campus. The work is important in our athletic department, and it's important to our wrestling program, and it's important to me. Diligence is high. And that was his first statement. And then he was asked kind of some questions further along about had he experienced that stuff before? Because, Carver Hawkeye Arena is raucous, it's rowdy. I mean, it's part of the atmosphere. And he says he's never experienced that, but he also talked about just that's not, you've got to ask somebody that's been a part of that. He mentioned that the administration's looking in and trying to find out the person responsible. And quote, when and if we find those fans, the penalties will be stiff for them. I also talked about our approach, specifically myself and Hawkeye Wrestling. We addressed this specifically with our team, but this is an ongoing conversation as well. And there is no tolerance, no place, no room ever, anywhere for what happened Saturday. It's an ongoing conversation, and there's a lot of work to do. And you do that work by listening. He said you have difficult conversations, and then you listen some more. I don't know if my opinions really matter on what the solution is. I think I have to listen to the people who are in that environment or raised in that environment every day, and that's how I'm going to learn. And I think that's probably the most poignant point.
Yep, words of wisdom for all of us right there.
Okay, so let's put that behind us now. Well, not put it behind us, but let's just move on to Oklahoma State and Iowa. This battle of the ballpark, kind of reminiscent to, the grapple on the gridiron as far as being in a different type of facility. They're going to do it at Globe Life Field, the Texas Rangers home baseball stadium. Do you think these special events held in different unique settings. Iowa State and Arizona State were at Bank One Ballpark in Phoenix, I think, once for just a college wrestling duel. Do you think these are the type of events that will help increase interest in
yeah, I think so. And some of the, off the top of my head, some of the venues that I've seen, like on beautiful stages, auditoriums. So you're looking down on the mat there, on battleships or different warships. Like the Citadel, I think it's outside where you can stand around. I think it's the Citadel. I remember a couple of years ago, and just a beautiful setting. So I think that's cool. Even Cornell College, I don't know if you remember, did one out on the football field. That was they didn't consider dew hitting the mat.
Yeah.
Kind of an ice skating rink for the first few matches that were reserve ones. But I think it's great. Try something different, have some fun, and some things are going to work out big, like that 42,000 or however many were in the Kinnick Stadium. That was a home run. Thank goodness the weather held for it, right? And then,
right.
And then,
you gotta have some luck when you're doing those.
Right, and then some may not work, but why not try it? You bet.
Yep. And that, I think that was one of the things that Tom Brand said. He kind of likes these things as long as they make sense and as long as they're executed the right way. He's been very complimentary of the people down in Texas, the Texas Rangers organization, Rev Entertainment, Oklahoma State, about how this is going and the way they've adapted, because like you said, Iran's pulled out, Mongolia's pulled out. They were able to create some difference, like a USA versus an all-star team, even though the all-star team is some pretty familiar faces from other countries. Now they're doing the same thing for the women. There's a youth takedown tournament earlier in the day, like 300 wrestlers will compete in that on the same mats that they're going to see Iowa, Okie State, and the international wrestlers compete on. I think it's pretty cool. And the one thing that really kind of stands out is this isn't in Oklahoma and it's not in Iowa. It's in Texas. That doesn't have any college wrestling in representation, even though the high school numbers have the participation level has really increased over the last 5 to 10 years down in Texas. And I think that's a key part of this too.
Right. In terms of Texas wrestling, I always said if Texas ever got wrestling going, look out. Holy cow, that state, geez, they could be a force to be reckoned with for sure. And to have it in a neutral site. And to me, it's like, Smith and Brands have always been, brutal competitors and enemies, you might speak. But, through the years coaching, there's definitely a respect. When they had the meet in Kinnick, who did Brands call? Oklahoma State, John Smith. And now John Smith's got something going, or they had something going down there. I don't know if John made the call to Brands, but he was happy to step up and wrestle Oklahoma State. And so, I think there's definitely respect going there, and admiration, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know that I go to as far as love or anything, but
yeah, no.
But still competitors on the mat, but off the mat, they know what's good and they're willing to do that.
Right. And speaking of the duel itself, which obviously is a big part of that. You've got some interesting things in the lineup. Iowa, their two lightest weights. You've got Drake Ayala back in the probable lineup. Interestingly, last week, they sent out bout sheets, apparently. I wasn't at the Wisconsin duel, so I'll say that first. I was covering sectional. J.R. Ogden was there, but heard that Drake Ayala was actually on the weigh-in sheet. They came back and took all those, gathered those back up. And then Jesse Ibarra was on there, but now you've got Ayala and Ibarra on the probable lineup at 25, and then you got DeSanto and Schriever at 133. And the reason why that's notable, I think, is because Dayton Fix is not only going to compete in the duel, but he's also going to wrestle in one of the freestyle matches that's going to be held simultaneously next to the Iowa-Okie State mat.
That's cool, really, actually, that he's going to do that, and hopefully they'll give him some time to rest. If Ayala is in the lineup, I'm pretty sure that of the 20 wrestlers that take the mat, it kind of depends on who they put out on the mat. And I guess if DeSanto's in the lineup, then of the 20 wrestlers, 19 of them will be ranked. And the only one that's not ranked is the replacement for Ferrari. So, if he was in there, it would be all 20 wrestlers would be ranked. And so, so you've got some really interesting matchups and some matchups that are closely ranked, which makes it intriguing to me. For instance, you got Gefeller and Murin, 13 and 10, and you got Sheets and Young, 18 and 12, and both sides have really great wrestlers. So this is more. It's not an Iowa runaway, that's for sure. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, don't be deceived by Iowa State and UNI's win over Oklahoma State, because those were both very good wins. And this Okie State lineup is dangerous, especially when you go to that middle, from 49 to 84, because Sheets and Whitlake at 65 and Plott at 74 and Dakota Gear at 84. Those guys can win matches against anybody.
Right.
If you're not on your game, or if you're getting too caught up in, the circumstances surrounding the meet, that snake's going to jump up and bite you. So this is a duel that, you look at paper and seeing the past results, you're like, oh, Iowa should be okay. Okie State's lost to Iowa State, UNI, Missouri, but those are three good teams. Oklahoma State's, dealing without the Ferrari being around, and this isn't a gimme by any means for the Hawkeyes.
Right, and Oklahoma State's had a couple, like the UNI and Iowa State lost, and then also Missouri. So they're not happy with that. They're not going to just sit back and go, well, but they're going to do something about that. They're going to be very focused, with Iowa coming in, because that would right the ship for them, for sure. It's going to be a battle to beat Iowa, but it's not out of the possibility. Like we said, if Iowa's flat, but some great matchups. You mentioned Whitlake, against Marinelli. That's 8 versus 5. Although I think Marinelli might be a little low ranked there, but then you also mentioned Gear, who's 11th, and he wrestles Assad, who's 15th. So there's those very similar rankings that could go either way, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So that duel has been pushed back all the way to 8 p.m. on Saturday. So you'll be able to catch all types of high school action on Saturday, and then settle in to watch Bout at the Ballpark there. I'm really interested to see how it gets carried out, and definitely could be a blueprint for some others to follow after this.
That's going to be fun to watch, but to me, the more intriguing matchup this weekend is going to happen up at in Cedar Falls.
The night before, on Friday night.
Right.
You got Iowa State and UNI coming in. Both of them some strong win streaks. I believe that Iowa State is the second longest active win streak behind Penn State.
Yep.
So the Cyclones are coming into the McLeod Center, not West Gym now. But I think it was kind of interesting, some give and take between Doug Schwab and Kevin Dresser, where Dresser, I think, said they're hunting Panthers this week, getting ready to hunt Panthers, and Schwab warned them to be careful because he might break a hip trying to do that. So I think good-natured rivalry, but like you said, these are two teams that, they might make those good-natured ribbing, I guess, before, but both of these teams are out for blood when it comes to Friday at 7:00.
Right, and if I'm remembering right, Iowa State is ranked 5th currently, at least in one of the polls, and I think UNI is like maybe 18th or somewhere in that vicinity.
I will double check on.
So obviously, knowing that, you would favor Iowa State, but I'm looking at some of the matchups, and again, depending on who they put into the lineup, I've got it 4 matches to Iowa State and 4 matches to UNI, and then 2 toss-ups. And those toss-ups to me are the first 2 weights. So we'll see right off the bat.
Yeah. I think Tyson Terrakina got a win over Teskey, or was that Kabamban? Maybe at the Harold Nichols Open, and then Terrakina won and beat Kabamban in the finals, maybe?
I think that's right, yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, that would be a good one to get back. And then, like you said, 133 with Biscaglia and Ramazan. Is that right?
Yes. That's why I'm guessing who they'll put in there, but I kind of have that one as a toss-up. I don't know. I suppose I lean maybe Iowa State's way, but to me, that's a toss-up. That if Biscaglia can win that, then there you go. And also at 25, then they're on a roll. So I mean, obviously Iowa State has their hammer in Carr, but
right.
They're probably favored at 97 and 285, I would think.
But John Gunderson, that's kind of interesting that Gunderson was pulled out of red shirt. I know he stumbled his first time out, but then bounced back, had a nice weekend against Air Force in West Virginia. So that might be closer, but Bastida has been very impressive here, especially as of late. But this whole season, he's hit a new level.
I agree. He has the opportunity to not win, but I mean, I guess you have to favor him. And I don't know that we've seen enough of Gunderson to really give him the favorite tag there. And my other one question mark was, and if he's in the lineup, then that might change it 4 to 4 to 5 to 3. But Parker, he's been in and out of the lineup, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But I would favor Parker if he's in it, and then also Dagan if he's in it too at 41 and 49.
Mm-hmm. I think actually a lot of this could teeter on 165, 174. You kind of expect Yant to get a win there at 65, but at 74, where you might have Runyon and Devine, I think that could be an interesting matchup, and one that could swing this duel one way or the other.
Well, and I hate to say this, but that's probably the soft spot of Iowa State's lineup is at those 2 weights, and yet they're very competitive.
Sure.
But Runyon is always a threat for the pin, that cradle of his, and so you never know what could happen there. He could lose or win by pin. And so we'll see on that one. But I would agree. And then UNI is obviously favored. Well, not obviously, actually, slightly favored maybe. With at 84, I know he's beaten Coleman. Kakaison's beaten Coleman probably about the last 3 times they've wrestled, maybe, and but they're close matches, so he's favored.
And Coleman's wrestled really, really well.
Yeah.
This season. I've noticed that Carter Isley wrestled some extra matches.
That as well. Very curious.
Do you think that might be a sign he's close to returning, or do you think this is a spot that Gordon has and will have and will keep here? I
thought it was Gordon's spot until I saw that extra match. I think that he might have done, and I'm like, so now I'm not. I'm baffled. I don't know either. So maybe
So
we'll see.
that might be interesting if that comes down to the last match, who we might see and between the two. You know, one thing that that kind of I found out here, trying to figure out, because UNI has 2 losses within the Big 12. One to South Dakota State and the other one to Missouri, right?
Yes.
Okay. Iowa State's undefeated. So I was wondering, okay, is this going to affect the Big 12 dual title? Right? Because Iowa State actually does have Missouri left. I asked the SID at Iowa State, Ryan Workman. He said the Big 12 does not officially recognize a regular season dual champion. Now, is it just me, or is that silly? Is that just plain dumb for the Big 12 not to, one of the marquee conferences? You think you'd want to, it's not the same Big 12 where you only had 4 or 5 teams.
Right. To me, I'm trying to think of why they don't. I made 2 reasons popped in my head. One, there were so many different teams, you don't get to wrestle everyone possibly. 2,
okay.
And 2, it's teams that are outside the conference that come in just for wrestling. So maybe that's a factor too. So
okay, that could be. Always bringing logic into this.
I don't know.
Coach, come on.
But I don't care. It's still a conference, so I don't know the award a champion. Who cares who's in it?
Yeah. So. But no, you bring up some good points though. But I just thought it was strange. And I could see it back remember when it was just a 4-team conference, a handful of years ago, but now you would think they'd want to recognize that. But like you said, there might be some factors with the kind of the ad hoc members to the conference and maybe not getting to wrestle everybody.
Right.
So
at one point in time, it was a 5-team conference, if I remember right. And then it went to a 4. It was a 5-team conference, and then they had like 37 or maybe even 40-ish qualifiers for the national tournament. I'm thinking, holy cow! I hate to be those very few that didn't get to qualify.
Yeah, right.
It's one of the easier conferences to qualify for nationals, so at least to me it was. I mean, obviously quality was great, but anyway.
Right. Not being in the West Gym, being at the McLeod Center, as a former Panther who wrestled in the West Gym, you've attended duels there. What are your thoughts about those 2 going at it at the McLeod Center?
Yeah, it needs to be there. The West Gym is too small for that, and we need to have that competition, interstate competition for sure. So definitely, I have no problem with it. When I was there, we wrestled in the Uni Dome, the newly built. Between my sophomore and junior year. Matter of fact, the first competition was a UNI Iowa wrestling meet in the Uni Dome. So I'm bringing that up because I know wrestling in a different venue on campus, it's a little bit different, and but that's I think it's all right. But.
And just so people realize, there is a 7 in that year that Coach Briggs was talking about, and not at the end. It was closer to the middle.
76, 77, right in there.
Now, UNI Iowa State, not the only big duel on Friday night. Just a little further east of Highway 20, right? In Dubuque. There's going to be a battle for the American Rivers Conference title between Wartburg and Loras. Putting it winner take all there between those 2 D3 powers.
Again, winner take all. Seems
like
right. Was 1 point. They lost 19-18 to Loras, so they were 1 point from last week being the winner take all meet. But it comes down to this one. So it's number one, Loras in the dual rankings versus number 6, Wartburg. So you'd think Loras would be favored. However, I don't know. We'll see. I was looking at some of the matches, and it's gonna be fun, for sure. But the marquee match in the conference and in the nation is going to be number 1 versus number 2, national champion versus national champion. One moved up, and so it's a clash, and that's at 184, and it's Kyle versus Legal. So Legal's a number 2 rank, Kyle's number 1 rank. So anyway, so Shane Legal, 3-time state champ out of Wisconsin. They wrestled 3 years ago when Legal was a freshman and Kyle majored him, but that's 3 years ago, and it's well, who knows what can happen now. So I know Legal's wanting this one bad, so we'll see what happens. But that's the premier match. I'm guessing whoever wins that's going to be an arc wrestler of the week.
Right. At least it should be anyway. And Wartburg's coming off that big one. They looked very, very good against Co. Last week up in Waverly. They seem to really have kind of the pieces falling into place and looking like they're gearing up for a good push here at the end.
Right. Some of the matches at Co were rematches. 125 NWCA Championship Finals. Brady Kiner and Alex Friddle. Friddle beat Kiner in the finals, but Kiner last week started out the meet and won 6-1 and won handily, and then he was awarded the ARC Wrestler of the Week for that win. I've been high on Park, Bryce Park for Co at 133. I've been watching him, and he looks tough, but Joe Pins went out. So I had that one in my mind as maybe a toss-up. I mean, Pins was favored, but I was thinking Park had been wrestling so well. Pins went out, got the takedown and the turn, and he took it to him, won 14-2. So that was impressive for me. And then the rematch at 157 in NWCA championships, David Hollingsworth versus Brady Henderson. Hollingsworth won that one 6-1. And then Kyle got a pin on number 1 versus number 8, Ryan Schott. It was a nice big win there for Kyle on that one. And the thing that I like about that is, then also the co-winners, Brock Henderson over Brady Fritz, and then Will Esmoil over Braxton Doble, and then Matt Arsenal at 197 over Kobe Woods. And of all of the matches that I just mentioned, I think that's important to say this, 10 of the 14 wrestlers that I just mentioned, and if I take off that last weight class, now it's 10 out of the 12, are Iowa kids, and most of them Eastern Iowa kids. And that's why it's fun to follow D3, because your kids you've been growing up with watching and seeing, improve through the ranks in college. So it's just a lot of fun to see that. Anyway.
Because that D3 championship is coming right around the corner. It's going to be here. You got the Lower Midwestern Regional in Dubuque, and then shortly after that, you'll be in Cedar Rapids for the D3 championships, and that's approaching fast. Do you kind of have a finger on the pulse of how Friday might play out? If you go by the transit property, which never works when it comes, especially to wrestling, Loras barely got by Co. Wartburg dominated Co. You would think maybe, but that's rarely the case how things play out. But
right, and big question mark would be who's going to step out on heavyweight for Loras, because that would be a big factor there. So I did last week. I did from the Wartburg perspective, the best case scenario, the middle case scenario, and the worst case scenario. And I nailed the middle. It was the exact same score. So I did that again. I did that again this week, right? Silly me, nerd that I am. Anyway, it's got a best case scenario, middle case scenario, and worst case scenario. And either team could win this.
And for people, I'm sure the people that watch this already know, but just in case they don't, the reason, especially why we mentioned heavyweight, Loras seemed to have an addition here recently. Gannon Gremmel, I believe he was a Big Ten champ last year.
Big 12.
Was an All-American as well. Was a leader for Iowa State. He is on the roster for Loras, and I don't believe we've seen him yet, right?
No, I'm guessing they're saving him for Friday. Yeah, probably needed to get some mat time for one thing. I don't know that he's been on the mat much because it's just a very recent addition, maybe the last week and a half or two, or something, with that. It seemed like about a week and a half, maybe a week. And so anyway, you got to get some mat time. Plus, they were wrestling UD and probably didn't need him for that meet. So I don't know if he weighed in or not, but he didn't wrestle. So definitely this, get a match under your belt before regionals and nationals. Is probably what I would say.
So that'll be, I believe, 7:00 on Friday at Loras.
That is correct, and it should be a full house. I mean, they're always going at it, so it'll be fun.
And of course, I think everybody knows the connection there. T.J. Miller, the son of Jim Miller, the longtime Wartburg coach, a Hall of Fame coach, coaching at Loras, and Loras was the one that snapped Wartburg's conference dual win streak that had dated back to 1994. So
right.
There's a lot of fabric woven between these two teams.
For sure. And TJ's done a really marvelous job up at Loras. He's as 2019, if I'm getting my COVID's always throws a wrench in it here. 2019, I think they were finished second in the nation. And then in 2020, which would be, am I doing that right? 2020, and they were set up to be, they were one of the top ranked teams and had a good shot at possibly bringing home a national title really, in my opinion, between them and Augsburg. And then, did a great job last year at the NWCA's and knocked off Wartburg in that conference where they have 26 or something straight, something like that. Titles. And so, yeah, done a great job up there.
So one other college thing I want to mention, Upper Iowa won their recent duel, beating Minnesota State Moorhead 34-9 on Saturday, February 5th. And what that does is that sets up a duel actually tonight on Thursday against Minnesota State Mankato. These two, believe, ranked really close. I think 15 and 17 maybe in the national rankings. So could be a very, very close duel for Upper Iowa, who's coming off a win. And of course, that starts at 7:00 tonight, and you can view that on KCRG 9.2. And I believe you can see it streamed. So
right, and then the that's the Northern Sun Conference that they're competing in. So I have a hard time saying Minnesota State Mankato because I grew up when they were back in the whatever conference UNI was in with them. It was always Mankato State. So
Mankato State back then. That's right.
I have to flip flop that.
So and same for Upper Iowa. They've only got one duel. They've got a duel in the middle of next week. And then it's preparing for the super regionals that they'll head to Moorhead, Minnesota for that. Iowa, they've only got Nebraska after this weekend, and then it's preparing for the Big Tens. UNI and Iowa State will be preparing for the Big 12 soon. It just seems like everything's gone fast, and now we're getting to the crunch time of the college season.
Right, and for me, I have two perspectives. One, as a fan of wrestling, and two, as a father of a wrestler. And my son, who started, Kyle, who started second semester, man, it blinked by, especially when we lost competitions with the national duels and the coves got postponed. So it just flew by. But so, you know, from that perspective as a dad, but man, it's a fun time of the season right now.
Let me throw this to you before we transition to high school. Let's bridge from college to high school here. One thing I was thinking about this before we started the podcast, you literally have filled just about every wrestling role I can think of. You've been a competitor, obviously, at the high school and college level. You've been a coach. You've been a parent. You're working as an official now. You know, have you really kind of looked back and taken stock on just the different contributions that you have made? I know it's something that you don't really focus on and stuff. I mean, and I almost forgot the media part of it, doing this with me and, you know, calling duels on KCRG 9.2. So you've done just about everything to give back to the sport. Do you take stock in all the things that you've done?
You know, I hadn't really thought about it. And I guess I don't think of giving back. I kind of think of it selfishly as I'm still taking away. I mean, I do it for because I love the sport and I love the people that are in it. And you know, we started off this podcast talking about a negative issue, but the wrestling community is tight. You know, we're competitive on the mat, off the mat, like our Jefferson and Prairie meets back in the day when they were bloodbaths. You know, and the wrestlers got along fine. You know, the fans were the ones that made such a big deal of it, and I loved it. That was great. Make a big deal of it, because if that's what gets you to come into the gym and have fun at the meet, then so be it. But that's that wrestling connection that I always wanted to keep, and I really don't ever want to let go of. You know, and you do it through your skills and in writing and sharing the stories, and it's just been fun for me to get to know that side of it with the media and watching you do that. You know, with trips to D1 nationals and working alongside you on the media. So it's a greater appreciation than I ever had before. Now seeing what you do and you know.
Well, that's really neat. What's the most rewarding part of it? Which role? Can you differentiate between any of them?
Yeah, when you were going through those, I happen to think that being a dad has been pretty dang good. I mean, because he's so darn, yes, not going to win. He's been so darn good and successful. He makes everyone look good.
Well, let's transition to the high school portion of the Pinning Combination podcast. We're in the midst of the postseason. You know, this is always an exciting and emotional time of year, just because, you know, there are some seasons and careers that are ending, you know, with sectionals and districts. But I tell you what, I don't think there's any other postseason quite like it. You know, the sectional meets might be the last weekend we have them, but there's some pretty exciting sectional meets or performances, I guess, more than anything. I'll start out by talking. I went to Manchester for the West Delaware sectional up there. West Delaware came away with 12 district qualifiers, 9 champs. Obviously won the team race, but it really was a kind of a 2-team show up there between West Delaware and Vinton-Schellsburg, who I believe advanced 7 onto the district meet.
Correct. They had four champions and 3 runners up. Something to note in that sectional that 5 of the number 1 seeds did not win. So that was kind of, and I noticed that in a couple of different sectionals.
And I think a couple of them didn't even advance.
Right. There was one, lighter weight for West Delaware, I'm not remembering, but was the number 1 seed and placed 3rd, I think. So you talked about the heartbreak. That's the heartbreak right there, man. That just
for sure. And Anamosa had a champ. They're the only one other than those 2 teams to have a champ. Heavyweight Cole Sigler came away with a title there. Anamosa and Monticello advanced 3 each. Tipton with 2, and then Center Point Urbana with 1 district qualifier. One of the weights that stood out to me, obviously, 152. Kind of saw this coming. Gabe Sanders of Vinton-Shellisburg and Logan Payton of West Delaware, 2 of the top ranked guys in 2A. They've met 5 times now over the last month. Very well could meet again here in a couple days. But at Sanders, I tell you what, I've been so impressed with the way Cooper Sanders and Gabe Sanders have wrestled for Vinton-Shellisburg. He comes away with a 7-0 victory in the finals against Logan Payton. And that's pretty impressive. Not just continue to win against a high quality opponent like that, but he's almost kind of widening the gap a little bit.
Yep. And that could be it's as much a mental thing as a physical thing, but from what I understand, he's such a hammer on top that, and isn't too bad on his feet either.
Right.
But, you can avoid going down, but if you're going to get taken down, there you go. So, it's impressive. But you never know. Get to that 7th one, get under, if it ends up being in the finals under the big lights, and who knows what could happen there.
Brady Ortner at 170 also was pretty impressive. At 160, Jaden Payton of West Delaware wrestled. He's somebody that I think week 4 of the football season tore his ACL and strained his MCL in one of his knees. At that time, thought his wrestling career would be over. At least his high school career would be over. Talked to doctors, found out that there was a possibility that, you could do it. So they did everything they possibly could to try to strengthen the muscles around his knee to take the strain and relying on that ligament. It seems to have worked so far. They kind of kept him out of the lineup, only limiting him to certain competitions and duels. And he comes away with a pin at 160 in the finals. Luckily, the only match, because there were only 2 wrestlers there. But, Jaden Payton, a 2-time medalist, looking to get down to Des Moines for his 4th time. And a lot of hard work has gone into at least getting the opportunity to wrestle.
Right. I was going to say, with only 2 competitors, he's guaranteed to qualify. So the other schools kind of helped him out there by not having to put him out on the mat and risk injury to the knee. That won't happen at districts, obviously, because now you have qualifiers that are coming there.
Right.
So two matches if he's a champion or doesn't have a wrestleback. And so anyway, that 2 in the bracket kind of falls back on your initial statement of we may not see sectionals next year. In that respect, there's a good reason why. If you're only having 1 match in the weight, why can't you do that in the district? So, and it seemed to me there were more matches or more weights that had less than 6 throughout the different districts that I was checking out than actually had 6. So, it makes sense. Yeah.
one of the things too that stands out about this, this sectional will meet up with another one. I can't remember exactly where it was at in 2A, but they're going to head to a Maquoketa district. And actually, it was Davenport Assumption that hosted the kind of the partner sectional here. But this Maquoketa district, and this is one point I want to, at 145 at Maquoketa, you're going to have number 1, number 2, and number 3 ranked wrestlers all in the same district, where you have Cooper Sanders of Vinton-Schellsburg, I believe it's Eric Kincaid of Comanche, and Michael Macias of Davenport Assumption. Those 3 they will be vying for 2 state berths.
And that happens every year, and it's a heartbreak because you've left someone behind that could potentially win it. In this case, let alone be a place winner. So
right.
Yeah, that hurts, and that happens more often than you think. But at all levels, 1A, 2A, and 3A. So
now some of the other sectional performances that kind of stood out to me, Osage had 7 champs and 10 qualifiers in its sectional. West Burlington Notre Dame at Solon came away with 8 champs and 10 qualifiers. Notre Dame followed that up with a regional dual victory over Assumption. I can't remember who they had first round, but they ended up beating Assumption in the regional dual final. So West Burlington Notre Dame, that's a team we've talked about, occasionally through the season. That's a scary team. That's a team that could do some damage.
Right. And now the first round, they had Albia, and they won 37-33. Very close meet. And then they beat Assumption 42-36. So a couple of close duels. And then, that's going to probably put them in at, or maybe, I guess we know, they're going to be the 7th seed at state duels, and they'll have Osage first round. So the 2 teams you just mentioned will square off.
Right. And you know what? I know everybody's maybe declared Waverly Shell Rock as this big, or not Waverly Shell Rock, sorry, West Delaware as this big favorite before the postseason even begins. But, I'm starting to look at this, and yes, West Delaware is a favorite, but they go into a very tough Maquoketa district. We saw a couple years ago where they didn't necessarily wrestle their best in the traditional tournament, and Osage came away with a state title and wrestled very, very well with the guys that they had down there, even though they had less qualifiers. If West Delaware isn't on top of its game, this is something where West Burlington Notre Dame or Osage could sneak in because they have some very talented kids.
Right. They could sneak in and swipe that title again at West Delaware, like you said. But I'm guessing those West Delaware coaches are very aware, and they're keen on that, and they're letting their wrestlers know. And it's not that far removed that the wrestlers don't even know. Probably a lot of their brothers were on the team. So yeah, for sure. They're gonna be. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but they're gonna at least be aware and look at that.
And just 2 of the standouts for West Burlington Notre Dame I want to mention. Blaine Frazier at 132. He's 45-0. 182-pounder CJ Walrath, 47-0, kind of leading the way. I believe, are they the Nikes? I think they might be the Nikes or the Nikes for their moniker. Somebody can correct me on that.
I think Nikes might be right.
Let's move to Class 1A if that's all right. I think the one thing that really stands out in Class 1A, Don Bosco. 14 qualifiers, 13 champs out of its sectional.
What a perfect day.
Yeah, that's obviously it's near perfect, but I don't know if you, as a realistic coach, you can draw it up any better.
Yeah, they're very, very good. I don't know how strong that district was because it's hard to judge it when you have those results.
Yeah.
You'd think not very tough, but on the other hand, is it that Don Bosco is that good? But I'm with you. I mean, if they don't win it, that's going to be the shocker of the tournament, if you ask me.
Underwood looked really good in the sectional results. They had 9 qualifiers move on. Obviously, you know what you have: Gable Porter, Stevie Barnes, Hagen Heisted, who transferred in from Logan Magnolia, Weston Allen. That's a team that they may not have as many qualifiers as, say, Don Bosco or even Lisbon, but they're going to have guys score a lot of points. And if they get some extra wrestlers through this Saturday at districts, that's a team that definitely is a contender.
At least a contender for second.
You think so?
I don't know. I do. I just think Don Bosco is pretty darn good. But that being said, I thought that of West Delaware a couple of years ago.
Sure.
So it could be a situation like that. You never know. And Lisbon will help out there as well, knocking some folks off and being in the hunt for a title or for a trophy.
Yep. Lisbon, 11 qualifiers, 7 champs. They move in to the sectional with, I believe, Sigourney Kyoto. That Sigourney Kyoto won pretty handily. I just want to say this about Class 1A and those 3 teams: Don Bosco, Underwood, and Lisbon. You look at a couple weights, and depending on how things now, obviously, you think Don Bosco's the favorite, and rightfully so. But you've got weights like 126. If all 3 qualify, you've got Quincy Happel, who's ranked number 3 for Lisbon, Weston Allen, number 4 for Underwood, Kyler Knock for Don Bosco, that's number 5. Depending on how those 3 finish, that could influence things. Same at 138, where you have top-ranked Stevie Barnes of Underwood, Kate Sebrecht, who's a defending state champ, who's ranked number 3 for Lisbon, and then you've got Don Bosco's number 9, Caden Knock, there as well. And then at 132, you've got Gable Porter of Underwood and Garrett Funk, number 2 of Don Bosco. Depending on how those 3 weights finish, if they, assuming everybody qualifies to state, that could really make an impact on how things fall out.
Wow, that's fun. And it might start with how they're seated, so as to when they might meet each other, or and then obviously at state you always get upsets. I mean, it's it's hard to. That's why you wrestle it, right? So that's going to happen. So, wow, that's good.
And one of the things I mentioned about that weight class, Marcel Lopez, he's top ranked at 126. He just won his 200th victory at the regional duel at Lisbon. He's looking, I believe, to become a 4-timer. So, it might depend on how, like you said, the seating, if it holds with the 3, 4, 5, that could make a difference with Happel being on the other side there, even though Happel wrestled Lopez pretty close in the regional duel. I think it was 3-2, and Lopez with a first period takedown. That was the difference. But I tell you what, there's a lot of fun scenarios that you can kind of look at here as we advance in the postseason. One other thing I want to mention, 2, as far as sectional results, it was Albernet with a humdinger against edging Wilton by 9 points for a team title at their sectional at Wilton. So the Pirates went down there, and this will be a good transition to the regional duels because those two faced off in the regional duels at Wilton, and it was Wilton coming away with a 39-34 win over Albernet. So Wilton kind of got revenge there, and they'll be heading on to the state dual tournament. Albernet beat Sigourney Keota in the semifinal there, 42-30. But
right. And as far as Albernet Wilton at the sectionals, you mentioned revenge. Yeah, Albernet won the sectional, but Wilton had 4 champs and 5 runner-ups, so they qualified 9, whereas Albernet qualified 7. So to me, as a coach, I didn't really pay as much attention to the team score as I did to the qualifiers. It's just getting those kids through the next level, and so Wilton, didn't win the sectional title, but they walked away with 9 qualifiers, and that's, to them, that's a victory. So
sure. And Tuesday, regional duels for 1A and 2A. I really did not see any big upsets. Maybe the only one that might stand out, Emmitsburg topped West Hancock 33-31. Excuse me. But other than that, I think most of the 1A teams kind of held serve.
And that's the case. Yep, you bet. They West Hancock was ranked 7th at the time, or seeded 7th, whatever. And Emmitsburg, I'm not sure what might have been. I'm not sure what they were, 10th, I think maybe. So it wasn't that big of a. But so that tells you, they were seeded. At least top 8 were seeded properly. I don't think they were necessarily in their right order, but
sure.
In most classes that's the case. And then in 3A, I think they were all 8. Well, all 8 that hosted won. We know that the 8th seeded team wasn't able to host, so that was
that was North Scott at Bettendorf, and Bettendorf came away with a 46-21 win over North Scott there between 6 and 8. In Class 2A, really the only one there that stands out is West Burlington Notre Dame coming away. They beat Albia 37-33, but then beat Assumption 42-36. That was impressive.
Right, and then there's another instance where Assumption was the 9th seeded team but got to host, and Hampton Vermont was the 8th ranked team and didn't get to host. So much like North Scott. So, but again, geography was a factor there, I'm sure. It's easy to say that, but it hurts when it's your team and your kids that are getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah, that's for sure. And in Class 3A, I was at Linmar on Wednesday night. I know we've talked 2 or 3 weeks in a row about just how Linmar just did not seem to get the type of love or respect, I guess, from coaches. And this is a team that's much better than maybe a 5th, number 5 ranking. I know it's something that's become kind of a punchline for the people in the Linmar program. I was talking to one of the wrestlers, and they were joking before the last set of rankings. They're like, "Are we even gonna? You think we even get a shot to host a regional duel?" Saying that kind of tongue in cheek, and of course they did. And boy, they were dominant, beating Pleasant Valley, number 15 Pleasant Valley, 43-15. A couple of the matches that stood out to me. Obviously, they started at 170, so it was a great spot. Knocked Warren came out, racked up, I think, 4 takedowns before getting a pin. Really kind of set things and got things going. Pleasant Valley did come back, win the next two matches to go up 7-6. But Griffin Schultz, the reason why this match stood out to me is he was up 4-0 with 15 seconds to go, and he's on top, and they go out of bounds. What do you say? Watch for the roll. 1, not 2.
2.
Right?
Yeah.
Just stay in control and take your decision. I think Pleasant Valley's wrestler kind of made a half attempt to stand up off the whistle. He went far near leg from his feet and put the guy on his back and got a fall with 1 second to go. That could have been so easy. And how many times have you seen wrestlers just kind of stay conservative and just make sure to coast to that decision? But that was a big spark for the Lions. Doug Stryker even kind of said, we're not maybe necessarily confident right there because Schultz missed last season. It's something he's still feeling out. And, credit to him. He wrestled to the whistle.
Right. Yeah, and good. Even if it's a different time in the meet, it's not the third or fourth match. So it's early on in the meet. Still don't know what the team score is or the result. But if it's later on in the meet, maybe you don't even risk that and go for the big move. But he did. He knew I'm guessing he thought they knew they needed some points, and at that point in time they did. And so good point.
And you hit it right on the head. Asked him about it, and he said, "Well, it was clear. It was close. I thought we were going to have a close duel based on the early part. It was 7-6 at the time he took the mat, and he saw the opportunity there, and he had to hit it and try to get those extra points for the team because he thought it might come into play, and it didn't because Linn-Mar pretty much steamrolled after that. But kudos to him. Luke Gaffney followed with a big decision over Luke Vonderhaar. Gave up the opening takedown and scored 3 takedowns after that. I tell you what, Gaffney really showed his athleticism in that duel or in that match. Nate Fish had a big win, a major decision at 113 for Linn-Mar. And then, of course, you got to your other ranked wrestlers with Braden Park, Kane Nockaborn, and Grant Kress. Park and Kress had technical falls. Nockaborn with another pin an inch closer to that regular season record or single season record at Linn-Mar. And then you got, other guys stepping up to show Linn-Mar's balance with Grant Boddicker at 152 and Landon Bushman with wins to close things out. So I'll tell you what, Linn-Mar is going to be a team that I still don't know if they have enough to overcome, say, Southeast Polk or Waverly Shell Rock. But to see them finish third, I think is certainly doable, and that would tie their highest finish dating all the way back to 2002, which was their first ever appearance in the state duel.
Well, if I figured it out right, they'll have Ankeny first round, very winnable meet, and then they'll have Waverly Shell Rock. If they were on the other side, they would have had Waukee Northwest, who I think they could beat based on results. Ankeny beat Northwest, as we know, earlier in the season. Not by much, but it's all about matchups. But the thing with Linn-Mar is they have that elite group of kids that are going to really, for the most part, going to be winning and maybe winning with bonus points. And then they have that second flight that's not far behind, like you just mentioned. That you just exactly what you're saying. And so they don't have too many holes. So it's just a real solid lineup at all 14 weights.
Yeah, and kind of looking at the 3A field, this might be one of the more solid fields from top to bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously have your 4 teams that, I think are maybe better than the rest, but I think that you know, 5, 6, 7, 18, you know, those are pretty strong teams as well.
I'm going to go with 6, 7, 8 since Linmar's the 5th seed, or we'll put right in there. So at least the 5th rank. So but I think those matchups. So we're going to find out because if it plays out like like the rankings or seedings would indicate, and Linmar can upset Ankeny or beat Ankeny. I don't know if it's an upset, but can beat Ankeny. If they don't beat Waverly Shell Rock, then maybe we'll see that Waukee Northwest for 3rd and 4th. But you never know what guys might do. And Doug Stryker has done this in the past. I don't know that it's been quite a while, but sometimes you don't bring your best team for the duels. I think this year they are, because they're a dual team, and they're going to probably try and get the highest trophy they can, and why not? But so some other teams may not. So I've seen that before. Like when we were wrestling Prairie for 3rd and 4th, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they didn't bring their team, or they gave their starters an option, the qualifiers an option, whether they wanted to wrestle or not, and they didn't. So that happens. When it's 3rd and 4th, and you got a big tournament, for the next 2 days, that can be a sensible thing.
Yep. Class 3A, I'll have their districts in 2 days. Obviously, they don't have sectionals, as everybody knows. Kind of interesting with kind of how our area teams are heading in different directions. Cedar Rapids Jefferson will host district in the metro area here. You'll have Cedar Rapids Jefferson, Kennedy, Washington, Clear Creek, Amana, Western Dubuque will come down, Iowa City West will come up. Then you have Linmar and Marion as well. There could be some interesting weights, but I think this is a good chance for Linmar to get quite a few wrestlers through, and even for Iowa City West to get 5 or 6, and just kind of got confirmation that Robert Avila Jr. will be wrestling at districts this weekend. He plans to go 145 pounds. So he's looking to become a 4-timer here for the Trojans. Won his first 3 Lisbon in Class 1A. So I know he's been dinged up and battling injury, but he's taking the man on Saturday.
That's good to hear. I mean, there's a guy that's, like you said, going for his 4th, and you don't get many of those. So yeah, that's a good thing. Good luck to him. And I'll say this: I don't know him real well, but whenever I've been around him, he's been very pleasant. Spoke to me and came up and thanked us, for broadcasting, and just so good luck to him. That's neat. Good. I'm glad he's back.
Iowa City High also hosts district, and I think this one might be one of the most competitive out there. You've got Bettendorf, Burlington, Fort Madison, Iowa City High, Iowa City Liberty, Newton, Ottumwa, Pleasant Valley. Obviously Bettendorf, a top 10 team. You've got Iowa City High that's got 4 or 5 real high caliber wrestlers. You got Cale Seaton, Cale Kurtz, 120, 126. Ryan Ott has come back from illness and is wrestling again at 145. And then you've got Ben Keeter as well there. Ottumwa's had probably one of its better seasons in a long, long time. That's a team to kind of look out for. And then Pleasant Valley, they were ranked 15th and qualified for the regional duels. They're a solid program. So that's one that could be very competitive.
Yeah, obviously got some front runners there that, probably won't be tested much. And then you've got some others that it's going to be fun to watch those weights, but yeah, for sure.
And then Marshalltown, you've got Cedar Falls, Mason City, Prairie will head Prairie will pass just about everybody and head west, head west. Then you've got Waterloo East, Waterloo West, Waverly, Shell Rock, and Xavier will head that direction as well. I'll tell you what, with Waverly Shell Rock in the field, and no disrespect to the other teams there, it's going to be Waverly Shell Rock and 7 others fighting for table scraps there, to get qualifiers. Obviously, Prairie, Xavier have elite individuals. You got Blake Jimo for Prairie, returning state runner-up. That's top ranked at 113. You've got Christian Stanek of Xavier, looking to become the school's first 4-time state medalist. I believe at 160, ranked 3rd or right around there. So that's going to be a tough road to hoe for teams to kind of get qualifiers, but their top guys should still get through.
Right, and it's one of those where the kids that do qualify, the kids that you get through, are probably going to have a pretty good shot at placing. If they're hanging in that tough of a tournament and punching through, then you'd think they'd have a good shot at placing at state when they get there.
Just to go over some of the top teams here, Southeast Polk will wrestle at Carlisle. Norwalk's in that field, Des Moines Roosevelt, Urbandale Waukee, West Des Moines Valley will be at Johnston there. Then you've got Ankeny and Ankeny Centennial heading up to Fort Dodge for that district. And then Waukee Northwest heads west to Lewis Central. And they'll be there with West Des Moines Dowling and the Council Bluffs and Sioux City schools.
Where does Indianola head to?
Indianola is part of that Johnston field with West Des Moines Valley, and of course Johnston, and Dallas Center Grimes and Bondurant Farrar are in there. Who would have thought at one time? Who would have thought that Bondurant Farrar and West Des Moines Valley would be in the same district?
It's that growth, man.
It's crazy. Everybody knows the size of West Des Moines Valley. Say 10, 15 years ago, you would have thought somebody was crazy saying, "Hey, Bondurant Farrar and Valley will be in the same district some year."
Yeah,
crazy. Well, I think we've covered just about everything. Anything that you want to finish off with, or anything that we didn't cover?
Nothing off the top of my head. Boy, there's so much to digest, and it's as there will be in the next 2 weeks, I guess, at the high school level, and then also college. We get kind of a break a little bit before the national tournaments in the college happen,
but certainly the next week and a half is going to be pretty packed with action, especially with after Saturday. It's going to be one heck of a week next week. So, I guess send us out, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody next week.
All right. We miss you, Wyatt. Let's keep wrestling on the move.
Thanks for watching, everybody.